Hi guys, it's Jess. I'm gonna do my presentation this way as I tried to do it a couple other ways and I could not get it to upload, couldn't get the sound to work, couldn't do the editing, all of that fun stuff. So I'm gonna try to do it this way. Hopefully it will work for you. I tried to do it in Powtoon and that looked really, really cool for a while until I couldn't get the voice recording to work. So if anybody knows how to successfully use Powtoon, please let me know because it was awesome while it lasted. But I am going to be talking about the book Greek Heroes by Riordan, which was a fantastic book. I really enjoyed it. A little different than what you would typically think of being used in a classroom setting, because it's pretty hefty. It's a large book with approximately 383 pages, but the pages are really big and tall. Like it's a big book. It's kind of what I would think of as like a display book. Like it's meant to be laid out so people can look at the pictures and read one story at a time kind of thing. So not necessarily your typical lit study book. But I chose to kind of look at it in a different way so that it could be used in that sense. So without further ado, I will pop up the unit plan so you aren't staring at my blank laptop screen. I did this unit plan incorporating a lot of other things on top of the book so that it could kind of be used with each student individually, one chapter at a time kind of thing, but each group of students would kind of get their own section that they were in charge of, so that at the end, when all the students came together and talked about it, the students would have a gist of the general idea of the book. So the stories in this book are about Greek gods, Greek heroes, Greek mythology, that kind of thing. And it covers like 12 stories in Greek mythology. And within those 12 stories, it's told from the perspective of Percy Jackson, which is kind of funny, and I can understand middle schoolers really liking that and relating to it because of some of the language that's used is pretty entertaining. So it's kind of Percy's story of how he saw these things go down, situations that were happening, and things like that. So, like I said, it is a big book, so I would not necessarily think that students would get their own copy of this book and be able to bring it home. And if they did, that would be amazing because it's a beautiful book, but not 100% likely that would happen. So I split it up so that my class would be split into teams of 2, and each group of 2 students would be in charge of a section of the book. And as we're going through the unit, they should be reading this, and this is written out in the calendar that I will talk about in a little bit. And they're in charge of kind of analyzing their own part of the book and using it for a few different activities. So that being said, the lesson in particular that I will be talking about has to do with a summary that they're going to be writing about the section that they were in charge of reading. So I'm just going to kind of go through some of this unit plan stuff. You guys have probably maybe read through this already, what's up on the screen, because I've been talking. But the rationale is that I think that Greek mythology is very interesting and entertaining, so I thought that middle school age kids, 6th graders in this sense, would stay interested in learning the history and learning some ELA skills together if it's presented in kind of a fun and challenging way to them. So it's focused primarily on ELA skills, but it incorporates history and art as well, because I think that art is a big part of Greek culture, and I think that that's important for the students to know. So some things in here are going to be students making their Greek name tag, and a sample of Greek poetry is the lesson I'll be going over, and a laurel wreath, which is another thing in the calendar that I'll go over as well. And then at the end of the unit, I'm hoping that students will be able to have a better understanding of the 12 famous Greek stories that are covered in this book, writing and research concepts as they're doing their mini research project, Greek pottery as a whole and how that correlates with Greek culture, and some of the important events in ancient Greece, such as the Olympics, which is an interesting topic that ties into the idea of the laurel wreath. So I'm going to kind of bring us down to the calendar really quick. I'm sorry, this is probably the most annoying way to do this. And I shrunk down everything from when I did this in Powtoon. So let me just kind of, I'll do that, and then we will do that. Okay, perfect. Okay, so in the unit calendar, it's going to be approximately 2 weeks, 10 lessons, something like that. Each lesson is going to be 60 minutes. Obviously, it's flexible a little bit because not everything goes as planned. So we're going to start here talking about the beginning. The introductory lesson is going to kind of be what do they know, what do they want to know, and these questions are going to answer by themselves. So things that they want to know, questions that they have about Greek mythology, I'm going to encourage them to kind of seek some of those things out on their own as they're reading through this book. So, introduction to the book. There is a huge map in the beginning of the book that's of where all these stories supposedly took place and things like that. So we're going to kind of go over that. We're going to go over all of the handouts that are in this unit. So they're going to be working on a summary worksheet to show them what I expect out of their summary. An intro to the book. There is an audiobook recording of it on YouTube, so I'm going to do that with my supposed class at the beginning of this unit to kind of get them excited, because the introduction of this book is very exciting, I guess, very energetic, and gets you hyped to read the rest of it and see what's going to happen. And it kind of starts you out on a quest, so I like that idea. And then partners are going to be assigned as well, day 1. So as they're working through, aside from the first 3 days, the first 3 days are going to be introductory, history and geography, and what is mythology. The lessons are going to be around those topics, and then learning about gods, demigods, goddesses, what does all of that stuff mean. Also, they're going to be learning about annotation, so that they can start annotating their story as they read it. And I'm going to give examples of that and a short lesson about that, and they're going to have kind of 40 minutes to work with me on that. And then while they're doing this, the homework that's assigned is their reading. So read part 1, part 2, and part 3. And then the readings are going to be approximately 40 pages each, so 3 days should be just fine for them to get through that. But they need to make sure that they are, or the teacher needs to make sure that they are reading it closely, because this is going to kind of be the basis of the scaffolding for the rest of what they're doing in the unit. So pop back up here, intro to Greek gods and heroes lessons, and then the Greek gods and heroes lessons are going to continue from this point on Thursday until the following week, until the end of the week. So basically with that, what's going to happen is, each day the students are learning about a different hero, be it a god, goddess, or just a hero in one of these stories that they've read in their book. So the point of this is that each student is going to learn a little bit about every Greek god and goddess that is covered in this book, even though that Greek god or goddess may not be in their assigned reading section. So every day when we do a lesson, there's going to be a brief overview of some things that I have researched, some things that I've found that the students might find interesting, and then they will be encouraged to kind of add anything in that they have read about if they really liked it, if there's a fun fact, or if there's something that I missed. And that'll kind of give students a chance to engage with their text and with other students and with the lesson that I'm teaching. And then as we continue through the same general idea, annotating your own text mini lesson and workshop. So as the students are kind of going through what they've read together in their pairs, I'm going to be helping them out to show them what I'm looking for in annotations, and that'll again be scaffolded from the lesson from the day before. So we get down to Friday. There's a mini lesson on using the summary worksheet to write a complete summary. So I found this really cool summary worksheet. Let me see if it's down here. From a Greek mythology research assignment that I thoroughly enjoyed. So this guy over here, there's going to be a few different things. So directions, everyone in the class has been assigned a different god, goddess, creature, or human being from Greek mythology. You must research them and make a 5-minute presentation based upon the mythological character that you've selected, blah, blah, blah. So this is kind of what I want my students to do, just a little bit different. So I took some concepts from this, but I didn't use the exact same thing in my unit or in my lessons, just because what I'm doing is slightly different because it's based on the book, not Greek mythology in general. But I do like the questions. So If you selected a god or goddess, please indicate what they are the god and goddess of, special powers they possess. Kind of questions like that is what I want them to be looking at in their story so that they have an end goal of reading their story. And I liked the setup of this where they can kind of circle like what god or goddess they have, assignment due date, things like that. So I probably would follow the template of this. And then kind of bringing it down here, Greek gods and heroes lessons again. Apollo and the Olympics was one of the interesting ones because instead of just doing writing workshop every day, I kind of wanted to give them something hands-on every once in a while. So they're going to be creating a laurel wreath, which was what was worn by Apollo during the Olympics, which is talked about in this book. So the person that was reading about that might have a say in, what we're doing or something to just add on to what's going on. And then they'll get to be able to keep their laurel wreaths. And then at the end of the unit, there's a presentation where they're going to kind of bring in all of the stuff that they've made and researched and everything. So they'll be able to have those there as well. The Greek pottery lesson is the one that I'm going to go into in detail. So I'll kind of skip over that for just a quick minute. Greek gods lesson, Hercules and Cyrene. And then kind of continues through the end. The second to last day, there is a activity involving Theseus and the Minotaur. Some of you might be familiar with that story, but it is a story that is in this book as well. One of the chapters of this book is based on that. But basically, Theseus gets stuck in a labyrinth, and he has to try to get out without getting attacked by the Minotaur. So he does this thing where he ties a string, and he goes in, so then he could follow the string back, and he ends up defeating the Minotaur. So it's kind of a fun day wrap-up lesson. I would want my students to create this labyrinth out of a shoebox and some foam board. So it's a pretty easy task that I found online. And students would be able to have fun with it, and it would enhance their knowledge of what they've read and things like that. So students are going to be displaying their shoeboxes at the end after they've done their presentations, which is just another thing to kind of have out and show their hard work, what they've been working on, kind of thing. So the last day is going to be project completion day. So I understand that students may not have a whole lot of time to work with their partners at home, and I understand that some books might not be available to all students, so that they're going to need to use the book while they're in school. So this last finalizing day, I just want them to feel stress-free, that they can come in, even if their project's not completely finished, they will be able to work on it, add to it, talk with their partner, bring in extra materials, and then the night before, the homework is just, I'm going to go through their materials during the day, and if I see that they still need some stuff, if they've got too much stuff or the wrong stuff, I'll notify them so that they can bring it in that Friday before we present. And then the final thing will be a walkabout in the entirety of the classroom so that all the students can kind of see what we've been talking about and what other students have to say about their specific projects. So, that being said, I'm going to bring this down really quick. And we are going to talk about the pottery lesson. If I can open this picture that I screenshot. Okay, so with the Greek pottery lesson, students are going to be reading about Greek pottery, the importance of Greek pottery, how mythological stories have been told on Greek pottery, things like that. So I was talking about the summarizing worksheet that students are going to be having to fill out. So the reason why they're doing that worksheet is so that they can eventually write a summary of the chapter on their own. And again, they're in groups of 2. So the 2 partners are going to write this summary, handwritten. I'm going to review it, things like that, and then they're going to actually type it up in computer lab the following day, which is on the calendar as well, you may have seen. So after they type it up, and I've gone through, made sure everything is the way that it needs to be, that will get printed and just kind of saved and set to the side for a second. And then the following day, after all of that is finalized, the summary is great, I've approved it, it's awesome, we're going to start our Greek pottery project. So I am going to bring in like flower pots, clay flower pots, and they're going to tell their summary story using the flower pots. So they're going to make their own Greek pottery that's going to explain the summary of the stories that they've been working on. So for them to learn about Greek pottery in the first place, we are going to talk about it. We are going to watch this video down here, which is an amazing video. If anybody plans on using Greek pottery in their future classroom, this video is amazing. Greek vase paintings of the gods. And this guy's pretty funny. He gives some really great suggestions. He also gives some examples. Let's see if some examples here of what Greek pottery looks like, stories that it tells. Basically, pretty much everything that I just went over is in this video. So the students will be able to watch that and just see it and get some ideas of what the pottery looks like so that they can use that with their project. So towards the end of it, I'll jump forward a little bit. This is kind of what it's going to look like. This teacher was an elementary teacher, I believe. So it's different. It is kind of the bare minimum because this is done in elementary. But I would expect a lot more out of middle schoolers. My 6th graders that this lesson is written for would probably do something a little bit extra. And then, of course, their writing is going to be typed up. And instead of using these plastic pots, I would want to use the real flower pots. One of the other differences is I'm going to have them read a nonfiction article, and that's where the nonfiction lesson comes in. So they're going to be reading that article, they're going to be comparing it to stories that they've read, how they think that those stories could be told using Greek pottery, and they're going to tell their own story from their summary on Greek pottery. So that's kind of the gist of that lesson. I thought that that would be fun and engaging and give them a reason to be writing their summary instead of just writing. And for the students that are a little bit more artistic, kinesthetic learners, and even visual learners that can learn things from other people's pottery, that this would just be a fun activity that they could all enjoy together and to be added to their end of the unit project. So let's see, we can jump back up here. Whoop, we aren't going to be able to see anything from there. Okay, let's do this. So there were some awesome tier 3 words in here as well as I'm scrolling through. But let me see. We're going to go to here really quick. The resources and text selections. So obviously the Greek Heroes book that I used for this. Make Your Own Greek Pottery is where I just got that screenshot from to show you guys. Excuse me. Greek Mythology Research Assignment is where I showed you that, that summary worksheet from. And then the Theseus and the Minotaur is another article that could be used as a nonfiction piece before the shoebox game is done. And then this one is the YouTube video. And then down here, Greek Heroes Activity Kit. This book actually comes with, it doesn't come with, but you can Google an activity kit that is completely about this book. There are some really fun exercises in there. So I was thinking if students get bored during the unit, if there's extra time, if some students haven't read and others have, and the students that have read need something to do, this is a great place to go. I remember there was one funny thing that was like, do you ship it or something? And that's where you combine the names of Greek gods and goddesses, or Greek gods and all the stories about somebody that they ended up having a child with or whatever, and you try to combine their names, and then you decipher whose name is what out of what's written from the combined names. It's kind of a fun activity. So that's something that they could do as well. And then there's another one with Theseus and the Minotaur where you have to draw the line of how he gets out. So just some fun activities. They are lower level. I wouldn't necessarily put them at 6th grade, although it says in the activity kit that they could be 6th grade. I might hold off on that. But pretty much overall, the unit is scaffolded, like I said, so everything kind of needs to be kept on top of. Students can't move on to the next thing until they've done the first thing and things like that. So there does need to be a little bit of flexibility in the schedule. And any extra time in the beginning of the unit should be spent researching and printing materials for the poster presentation. So the wrap-up of this is going to be students combining their summary, pottery project, the Theseus and the Minotaur little mini project with the shoebox, another writing piece that they've done, and then some research that they've done from outside sources online and cutting out pictures and things like that. All these things are going to come together on a poster project, and that's going to be presented at the end. Students cannot present if they haven't printed out things to go on the poster and stuff like that, so time needs to be made to do that. And like I said before, the Minotaur activity can be exclusive to only students who are on track with their tasks up to this point, meaning that if students have not met criteria and they still need to make up some things, then this activity is not crucial to what is being taught in the unit, so it's kind of more of a fun thing, so the students that are not caught up can get caught up while the other students have something kind of more fun to do. Students can use this time to catch up on reading and writing and researching, depending on what they've got to do. And if a student is not doing their share to keep up with the project, they will be asked to complete the task during the activity periods. So not just the Minotaur project, but there are other activities and making the wreath and things like that students do not necessarily have to be a part of. So if they aren't keeping up on the reading at home, and I notice that and they aren't pulling their weight in the project, they will be asked to do that during the activity period. But that pretty much sums up my unit. I know I'm probably a little bit over on time, but that's just a brief summary, or not so brief, of what I would be teaching in my unit, what my students would be doing and what's expected of them, and so on and so forth. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to email me, talk to me, text me, whatever about it. If anybody would like copies of anything because you thought this was really cool, same thing, just shoot me an email, let me know. Thanks, guys.